Hello there, welcome back to What the Flick. I'm Christy, that's Matt. I almost said I'm Matt and that's Christy. That is how often I do this. So, so the Obamas, Michelle and Barack Obama, have left the White House, but they're going to the red envelope. Oh, see what I did there? Thank you so much. They've signed this big deal with Netflix, a big production deal with Netflix. And so they are not going anywhere to develop what? Television?
Well,
and what
so,
else? Yeah.
right, it's not that they have a specific show. They've signed to potentially work on scripted and unscripted series, docuseries, documentary films, could be features, could be narratives. So I think basically Netflix decided they wanted to get into the Obama business, as Hollywood would say. And that'll be fascinating to watch what they come up with.
Yeah, I mean, they always seemed really plugged into pop culture, and maybe that is a product of being younger than a lot of presidents and first ladies over recent years. You know, he would put out a playlist at the end of every year of his favorite songs, you know, and they just seemed, and they had young kids for a long time in the White House, and so they were very much plugged into what's going on pop culture-wise, and so it's not really surprising that they would want to do this. But I'd be curious to see on the scripted end what they'll choose, right? Because from an unscripted perspective, you can imagine that it would be about issues that matter to them, you know, an exploration of environmental causes or things that Michelle Obama did as First Lady involving, you know, childhood obesity or eating or, you know, food and, you know, exercise, whatever. You can imagine that they would use the pet issues that really matter to them in the White House to, you know, explore further. But I'm wondering, like, you know, if they can just pick, okay, this is the kind of TV show that I like a cop procedural. I wonder what's going to be.
Well, and I think, like, what's the kind of unintended consequence about this for, you know, what comes after based on the reaction of them getting this deal? Like, the two things that come to mind immediately are, A, we've seen Trump get really upset at Amazon because he's mad at Jeff Bezos' ownership of the Washington Post. So now is he going to go after Netflix for some reason?
Yeah.
Secondly,
probably
after Trump is finally out of office, whenever that happens, is he going to try and get a bigger deal than the Obamas got at Netflix so he can brag about that?
Well, there was always talk about Trump TV, right? Because when he didn't think he was going to win, and no one thought he was going to win, he figured, oh, it's okay. I'm going to use the campaign to launch Trump TV, and he, you know, people were lining up that would be his talking heads for that. So he'd be mad. I'm sure.
I'm going to also make a prediction. I would not be surprised to see some level of sci-fi or comic something coming out from Barack's side because he is legendarily into that.
Oh, is he? Okay, cool. So Netflix has been spending a lot of money lately to lock up brands and production houses to work with. So including Shonda Rhimes, who recently in the last year signed a deal with Netflix for $100 million. Ryan Murphy has a deal which is supposedly worth as much as $300 million. There is no dollar amount on this yet. But yeah, I'd be really curious to see, because they seem to have pretty good taste. So I'd be really curious to see what they would put out there for the world.
I suspect that will break, because when the stock reports, like when the annual fiscal reports come out for Netflix, we'll get that news.
Okay.
Because it'll have to be disclosed.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so stay tuned. We'll report on that when that comes out. Also, so speaking of television news and scandals and whatnot, there's going to be a Roger Ailes movie, and Jay Roach is directing it. And, you know, he's not just the guy from the Austin Powers movies. He also did Game Change, which won a lot of Emmys and Golden Globes. Julianne Moore as Sarah Palin, which was really sharp.
Yeah.
And it's not an over-the-top parody. Like, it's biting and it's sharp and smart. Now he is doing a movie about Roger Ailes, disgraced Fox News chairman Roger Ailes, the late Roger Ailes. And one key figure in it is Megyn Kelly, played by Charlize Theron, which is amazing casting, I think. Like, she's a producer on it, and she's going to star in it.
I think that's great.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's just dead on.
Yeah, that's great casting. Charlize Theron is so versatile. You know, she can do comedy, she can do action, she can do drama, you know, whatever. And Jay Roach is the type of director that it will be both dramatic and funny, and it'll be satirical, but then serious, and she can thread that needle so well.
Yeah.
I think that's terrific casting.
Yeah, and I can imagine too, because she, over the years, has taken such chances and been not just willing, but like enthusiastic about playing really complicated women and playing potentially unlikable women. And we saw that several years ago in Young Adult, when she played a boozy and selfish, former prom queen who is, totally entitled and goes back to her high school and just thinks that she should still rule the world, but she's a mess inside. And then most recently in Tully, which is still out, which we loved. Go look for our review of Tully here on What the Flick, because we all kind of loved it. But again, that's a woman who is messy and relatably so, and there's great honesty to it. So I can imagine that she is going to bring to the role of Megyn Kelly somebody who is still very much among us.
Right.
I'm really curious about that too. Like, is she gonna go meet Megyn Kelly and go hang out with her when she's getting her makeup done? That's good. Look at that. That's pretty good.
Right.
I wonder how Megyn Kelly feels about this. I mean, you'd be thrilled to have Charlize Theron.
Listen, I would love to have Charlize Theron play me. I would 1,000%.
I mean, who wouldn't want Charlize Theron to play them? But I can imagine also that, Megyn Kelly is a very smart woman, and as a journalist, how will she feel about having her life portrayed, and does she have any say into it? She's not a producer on this.
No, she's not. Well, and I'm fascinated to find out who they're going to cast as Ailes. According to the report we were reading, there's not any news that I've seen in this about who's going to play Roger Ailes, who's going to play presumably O'Reilly, because you would have expect he'd have to be part of this. Who's going to play Gretchen Carlson. I think this is, I can't wait for this movie. Yeah,
this will be really fun. So this is in pre-production. It is Untitled Megyn Kelly Project. So Jay Roach is directing. Charles Randolph is the writer. And he also wrote, did he write The Big Short? Yeah, he wrote The Big Short and The Life of David Gale and The Interpreter with Nicole Kidman. So
I remember that movie.
Yeah. So he's been around for a little while. So that could be really smart. That could be really good. So we will report on that. So since we're talking about casting, so you joked that you want Charlize Theron to play you. Who would play you in a movie? If we're doing a movie,
that's a good question.
If we're doing a movie about all these people in our lives, who would you cast?
I don't know. Back when I was a lot heavier, young Dom DeLuise. But right now, I don't know. You tell me who would.
I don't know. Who do you think looks like you?
I'm afraid to ask. I'm afraid to ask the audience. God only knows what we're going to get.
Okay, yeah, so actually that could be really fun. That could be the next interactive thing. Who do you think should play us?
Who's the one that you always get?
I get Leslie Mann a lot. Yeah. And I've only recently allowed myself to see it. I never thought it before. She's really tall. She's 5'7". She's really tall and really thin. I'm neither of these things.
Yeah, but I could see a little, I'm not sure I totally am there, but I
in the eyes and the cheekbones. The eyes and the cheekbones. Who would play Alonzo?
That's a good question. A young Harvey Fierstein. No, not no. Now Alonso's gonna be mad at me.
And Ben plays himself.
Right, Ben Megwitz as himself.
He is reporter number 2.
Right.
So he can just play himself. He already has a SAG card. He's all set. So come on back when we find out who's going to play us in the direct-to-DVD video of What the Flick. So movies coming out this week we're going to review for you. So Solo, a Star Wars movie, is coming out. Alonzo and Matt talked about it a little bit. Matt and I are going to talk about it a little bit. Eventually everyone will talk about Solo. Right. I saw it. We can talk about it eventually. But there's a lot of little things coming out too. There's a documentary about Andre Leon Talley, which is great. There's a movie called In Darkness about a blind pianist who gets into trouble. So come back and we'll have reviews for you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.